Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. On today's show, we have the latest Commanders injury updates as the Burgundy and Gold prepares to take on the Dallas Cowboys here in Week 7. Then we'll get into some juicy Commanders trade and free agency rumors. I'm going to tell you why I think the Commanders should go out and sign CJ Gardner-Johnson, as well as address a couple other rumors currently floating out there around the Washington Commanders. Before we get into the content today, though, guys, make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. It's 100% free to do so, and what we try to provide for you guys here on this channel is free, informative, and entertaining Commanders coverage every single day. We also go live for most Commanders games on this channel with our live watch parties, and we are so close to 50,000 subscribers, guys, so help us get there right now. Click that subscribe button and join the Commanders Report family today. So we'll start here with the news that newly signed defensive end for the Washington Commanders, Drake Jackson, has been placed on injured reserve. He will miss at least 4 games before he would be eligible to come back and play for the Washington Commanders this season. And, it kind of begs the question for me, guys. Like, if Drake Jackson's not healthy, why the hell are we signing him to the active roster just to put him immediately on IR? Why not just wait a couple of weeks, see if he gets healthier down the stretch, and then sign him later in the season? This doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. The only thing that I can really think of is they really want Drake Jackson, and they don't want anybody else signing him before they could, and they're fine placing him on IR and waiting a month at least here for him to be able to play, because there's certainly been a lot of injuries to this defensive end group, to the Washington Commanders, and those injuries are not slowing down anytime soon, with Dorrance Armstrong currently dealing with a hamstring injury right now, and that's after you have lost Dietrich Wise and Javonte Jean-Baptiste for the season. So this defensive end group appears to be in real trouble right now, guys. I was really excited for the Drake Jackson signing, because I thought, hey, he must be healthy. He's going to come in here. He's over 270 pounds. He's very strong. He's a good run defender. He's going to help this team set the edge better than what they were able to do against the Chicago Bears. But now you're right back to where you were before. And, Dorrance Armstrong is a good player, all right? When he's on the field, he is your true number one defensive end right now. But then behind him, you got Jacob Martin and Von Miller. You'd rather have Von Miller be just like a rotational pass rusher. Honestly, same thing goes for Jacob Martin. They're both not very big or strong types of guys. They've played more like 3-4 outside linebacker type of guys throughout their career, not 4-3 defensive ends, which requires a little bit more size, a little bit more strength in order to hold the edges of the defensive line. And then Preston Smith was brought in. He looked awful on Monday Night Football this week versus the Chicago Bears. Jalen Holmes, he has not been very good throughout his time here in Washington. Didn't honestly look good in the preseason either. So you're adding Jake Jackson to this group here, but he's injured, and he's going to be out for at least the next month by putting him on IR. And then to make matters worse, you kind of need Dorrance Armstrong right now, but it appears that, he might be a long shot to play for Sunday afternoon versus the Dallas Cowboys. These are the 4 players on Wednesday that were not at practice for the Washington Commanders. Not only is Noah Brown, one of your starting wide receivers, now placed on IR, can't play for at least another month, but then you got Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel, your other 2 starting wide receivers, who are not at practice today. So, right now, the Commanders just can't get healthy at the wide receiver position, and now they have another position here in the defensive end position that they're stacking up injuries as well. Chris Rodriguez Jr., their number 3 running back, was also out of practice today, still dealing with that calf injury that kept him out Monday night. But listen, man, the 2 big names right there that I really want to see on the field on Sunday are Terry McLaurin and Dorrance Armstrong. Now, Terry was able to practice in a limited fashion yesterday, and then today he was a DNP, or at least during the media viewing portion of practice. So that's obviously not ideal. You really hope that Terry can get back into the lineup and start building up that chemistry with Jaden Daniels. He honestly hasn't had a ton of time to practice with Jaden this season after holding in, and now he's had this injury that has kept him out of practice and games over a number of weeks now. And now Dorrance Armstrong, who you really need out there on the field, because if you're going into a game with Jacob Martin and Von Miller as your 2 starting defensive ends in a 4-3 system, that is very concerning to me, honestly, guys, and I think that that's a pretty big deal. So hopefully these 2 players that are very crucial to either side of the football here for the Washington Commanders can get back and stay back if this team is going to do what they want to do here and start stacking victories, especially with a really tough schedule coming up after the Cowboy game. So where are you guys at? Let me know down there in the comment section. What is the percent chance that the Washington Commanders win versus the Dallas Cowboys this week? Put it on a scale of 0, meaning no chance they win this week, to 100%, meaning it's already locked up. The Commanders are going to win this week. Let me know your percent chance down there in the comment section for today's pinned question. Just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at PrizePicks. And while I'm telling you about our sponsor today, give me the percent chance the Commanders beat the Cowgirls on Sunday. So now let's talk about PrizePicks here, guys. And you and I, we both make decisions every single day, but not all those decisions get you paid. But if you download the PrizePicks app on your phone today, you can get paid for your correct decisions. That is, if you know ball. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Football season is finally here, and you better believe I'll be getting my PrizePicks lineups in all season long. PrizePicks is super simple to play. You just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in. PrizePicks also puts their users first, so while withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure, PrizePicks also offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. And a new feature from PrizePicks that I absolutely love is injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and does not return, PrizePicks will not count that as a loss. You guys can see my PrizePicks lineup for Thursday Night Football tonight between the Steelers and Bengals. I am taking the more on receiving yards for DK Metcalf, the more on rushing yards for Jalen Warren, the Steelers running back, and the more on interceptions for the turnover-prone Joe Flacco versus a very good Steelers defense that turns the ball over quite a bit. So download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, so for me personally, guys, I want the Washington Commanders to go out and sign CJ Gardner-Johnson. If I'm them, I'm looking to add a bit of physicality to this defense, and I want to kind of adopt a more quote-unquote big nickel style of defense here, where you've got pretty much a safety that can play nickel playing as your nickel defender, okay? And, that certainly fits the description of CJ Gardner-Johnson, who's a good coverage player from the slot, but he brings a lot of size, length, and physicality to the table. If you want him to, you can put him at strong safety, but I would put him at nickel just because, I think that Mike Sainristil is really struggling, and especially because along the defensive line, you don't have a ton of strength in terms of holding the edges on the defensive ends. I would personally want to have a bigger nickel in there to help out a little bit on the exterior, because you guys saw it on Monday Night Football, okay? When they bounced it outside and it was Mike Sainristil versus DeAndre Swift, the tackle was not being made, okay? And then in coverage, it's not like Mike Sainristil has been good in coverage this year either. So I get it, man. This team probably doesn't want to give up on a player they spent a second-round pick on just last year, had a good season last year. They're hoping that eventually Frozone is going to be able to turn things around here and be the player that we all expected him to be heading into this season. But at some point, man, something's got to change and something's got to get better. And I think that this secondary could really use the injection of physicality that CJ Gardner-Johnson could bring. Now, I know there's a big kind of campaign in Philly to bring back CJ Gardner-Johnson for the Eagles defense after they've had some of their struggles to start this season. But personally, man, if I'm the Commanders, I would love to get CJ because he's a physical presence that can play from the slot. It gives you a little bit more physicality. And if you're going to be losing a little bit of physicality in the defensive end position, I would like to add a little bit more in your nickel spot there in the slot. And I think that CJ Gardner-Johnson can bring that. He won't be expensive, and you better believe he'd be motivated to play the Philadelphia Eagles twice this season after they essentially said no thanks and traded him away earlier this offseason. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Would you sign CJ Gardner-Johnson if you are the Washington Commanders? For me, it's an easy sign, but let me know what you guys think. Type S for sign or P for pass. So now let's shift our focus to some trade rumors here. This one comes from Pittsburgh radio host Andrew Filipponi, who likes to play reporter at times, guys, and he's been wrong a lot. Just keep that in mind here as I read this out. But his quote-unquote report here from a former NFL GM, quote, I don't know what's going on with Freiermuth. I'm talking about Pat Freiermuth, the Steelers tight end. A team would definitely trade for him like the Commanders or Rams. I think the Steelers could get a third or fourth for him. Should the Steelers trade Pat Freiermuth? Listen, man, if you know anything about Andrew Filippone, you know that his quote-unquote reports are not, the most reliable and not the most reliable sourcing. I even question if he even has a source on this. And, I think that the big reason why I really doubt that the Commanders would have a high level of interest in Pat Freiermuth is because I think they love their tight end rotation the way that it is right now. Zach Ertz is currently their number one guy in their receiving back. They love him. He's got a great chemistry with Jaden Daniels. Now, sure, he's in the tail end of his career. Pat Freiermuth is younger, and he has a very similar skill set to Zach Ertz. So maybe next offseason, if Zach Ertz retires, I could see them being interested in Pat Freiermuth. But right now, honestly, I don't see that. Then you got John Bates in there as your blocking tight end. They love him. And then Ben Sinnott, they spent a second-round pick on him last year, and they feel good about him being the future at the position right now. So it would surprise me a little bit if the Commanders were interested in trading for a guy like Pat Freiermuth. And personally, if you're going to be adding an offensive weapon, if you're Adam Peters and you're looking at ways to improve the weaponry of this Commanders offense, my number one priority is not getting a receiving tight end like Pat Freiermuth. It would be to get a route runner at the wide receiver position, because right now all three of your starting wide receivers are dealing with some sort of injury. Okay, and you look at what's in reserve. I mean, Luke McCaffrey's made some nice splash plays, but I can't say that he's consistently gotten open on tape so far this year. Jalen Lane can get open, and he's really fast, but he has not the best hands in the world. Chris Moore has his flashes, but then he'll drop a pass almost every single game, which is super infuriating. And then Robbie Chosen, Ja'Cory Brooks, and Jones haven't seen the field this year so far. They're on practice squad. So, I don't really know where we're at right now. Noah Brown's on IR for the next month. So I look at this offense, and even if Terry McLaurin comes back this week, even if Deebo Samuel is good to go, you're still missing, in my opinion, that bona fide third piece in this Commanders wide receiver room. And to get kind of that double team attention off of Terry McLaurin, you need someone else that can really threaten to the deep part of the field and threaten as a route runner versus man coverage. So here are some names to consider if you are a Washington Commanders fan. I think Adam Peters should be aggressive to go get another wide receiver for the right price. Of course, the Commanders don't have a ton of draft capital. I'm probably not giving up a first or a third round pick to get a receiver. But if I can get one for like a sixth round pick or a fifth round pick, or if I can do a pick swap sort of deal, I would certainly think about that. Here are some of the names across the league that have been kind of connected to trade rumors as of late. And for me personally, guys, the guy that on this list that intrigues me the most is another San Francisco 49er here in Jauan Jennings. Okay, you trade for Deebo Samuel for a fifth-round pick this year, and honestly, I think you could maybe even trade a fifth-round pick for Jauan Jennings, and I think it would work out just as well as, at least to this point, the Deebo Samuel trade has gone for the Washington Commanders. You look at Jennings' profile here. He's 28 years old. He's ready to try and win Super Bowls right now. He's over 200 pounds at 6'3", so he's got really a great frame, and he might be the best run-blocking wide receiver in the National Football League. But it's not just that, guys. He's an excellent route runner. He's got really good hands. He can step up into a number one receiver role if the number one is hurt. He showed that last year, and right now, of course, the Commanders are dealing with a little bit of a wide receiver one injury problem in Terry McLaurin. And he's on the final year of his contract in San Francisco. They came to terms on like a restructured deal at the beginning of the season, but it seems like Jennings is very frustrated that the 49ers are not willing to commit to him down the road. And, it all culminated this past weekend where Jauan Jennings had a verbal altercation on the sideline with 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan last week. And, it just seems like things are starting to bubble over for Jauan Jennings. And they're getting a lot of their guys back in the weeks to come. They're going to be getting Brandon Aiyuk back. They're going to be getting Jordan Watkins back. They're going to be getting Ricky Pearsall back. And with the emergence of Kendrick Bourne in that San Francisco offense, he's been taking a lot of the looks away from Jauan Jennings. It just seems like, Jennings could be a guy that could be dealt before the NFL trade deadline, which is coming up here in just a few weeks. So I think Jennings could be this team's really missing piece on offense. Not only can he help as a run blocker, so you've got him and Deebo run blocking for you as receivers. That would be awesome for this offense. You pretty much get like another two tight ends with these two guys. They're so good at run blocking. But then you've got the contested catch ability. You got the route running ability to get open versus man. He's got the contested catch ability to win when he doesn't separate versus man, okay? He doesn't necessarily have the vertical stretching ability that, some of these other receivers that they could get could bring to the table. But you got Jalen Lane that's more than capable of doing that. And you got Terry McLaurin, who is a bona fide deep threat in his own right. So I think that Jauan Jennings is somebody that I would really consider, especially because I think he might be gettable for like a 5th-round pick or something along those lines. So if you guys want to look for a wide receiver for the Commanders to go get, I think Jauan Jennings is the place that I'm starting. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Should the Commanders trade for a wide receiver before the deadline? And if so, for who? Let me know down there in the comment section who you think the Commanders should trade for. And that'll be it for today's edition of the Commanders Report by Chat Sports. We got more coverage for you guys coming out tomorrow. The final injury report for Cowboys versus Commanders comes out tomorrow afternoon, so we'll have extensive coverage of that. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, out to the Commanders.